Somewhere in the deep Pacific, right now, a sperm whale is falling through the dark. Not sinking, falling with intent. 45 tons of animal driving itself downward at roughly 2 meters per second, head first, the great blunt block of its skull aimed at the floor of the world. It left the surface 8 minutes ago. It won't be back for another 40. The sunlight vanished at around 200 meters. The water here is cold and absolute, and nothing from the surface world follows. Around 1,000 meters, the ocean enters what oceanographers call the bathypelagic zone, the midnight zone, a band of permanent darkness between 1,000 and 4,000 meters deep, where the pressure is 90 times what it is at the surface, where the temperature hovers just above freezing, and where the concept of visibility doesn't apply. Nothing follows the whale into this zone. Nothing else comes down here to hunt. Except that from deep inside that enormous head, the whale fires pulses of compressed sound into the dark. Clicks measured at apparent source levels of up to 230 decibels, the loudest biological sounds produced by any animal on Earth. Sound in seawater travels at approximately 1,500 meters per second, roughly 4.5 times faster than it moves through air. The returning echoes, arriving fractions of a second after each pulse, build a picture. Not a metaphorical picture, a three-dimensional acoustic map of everything within range. The depth of the seafloor far below, the scattered layers of smaller organisms, and the larger, denser shapes, the squid moving in the dark. The whale isn't lost. The whale is hunting. And it has been doing this, in one form or another, for over 20 million years. The sperm whale, Physeter macrocephalus, is the largest toothed predator alive on Earth today. This isn't a close call. An adult male reaches between 16 and 20 meters in length and weighs between 45 and 57 metric tons. In 1950, a male measured off the British Isles at 20.7 meters, still cited as one of the largest accurately documented specimens with an estimated mass above 80 metric tons. For comparison, the second largest toothed whale, Baird's beaked whale, measures up to about 13 meters and weighs up to 14 tons. The sperm whale outweighs it by a factor of 4. The head alone occupies roughly 1/3 of the animal's total length. On an 18-meter bull, that's a head approximately 6 meters from its blunt tip to where the body starts to narrow, longer than most cars. Inside it sits the spermaceti organ, a vast reservoir of waxy, semi-liquid oil that Malcolm R. Clark, the marine biologist whose 1978 paper in the Journal of the Marine Biological Association remains the foundational anatomical reference on the structure, described as a feature that may exceed 1/3 of the total weight and 1/4 of the length of the whale. It's the engine of the animal's acoustic system, its primary hunting tool, and, as later research would suggest, the physical structure that allowed a single whale to hole and sink an 87-foot wooden ship. The lower jaw is narrow, almost delicate by comparison with the enormous head above it. Along each side, between 20 and 26 conical teeth, each up to about 20 centimeters long and weighing up to approximately 1 kilogram, fitting precisely into corresponding sockets in the upper jaw. Sperm whales with deformed or missing jaws have been found in healthy condition, which suggests the acoustic system does most of the real hunting work. The teeth likely function primarily in male-on-male combat and in subduing particularly resistant prey. Mature females average around 11 meters and 15 tons, 1.5 times shorter than the bulls, 3 times lighter. Females live in social groups. Bulls range alone through the world's deep oceans, appearing briefly at lower latitudes to breed before returning to productive high-latitude feeding grounds. The species occupies every ocean on Earth where the water runs deep enough, from the frozen margins of the Antarctic to the equatorial tropics, and its preferred habitat begins below 1,000 meters. The evolutionary lineage that produced this animal traces back at least 20 to 25 million years in the fossil record. The Smithsonian places the oldest known sperm whale fossil at approximately 25 million years ago. Oregon State University describes the family as having been in the fossil record for some 20 million years. The broader cetacean lineage, all whales, dolphins, porpoises, diverged from terrestrial artiodactyl ancestors closely related to hippopotamus relatives approximately 50 to 55 million years ago. The sperm whale family specifically has occupied the deep-sea predator niche continuously for roughly the past 20 million years. For context, 20 million years ago, our primate ancestors were small monkeys. The Antarctic ice sheet was still forming. North and South America weren't yet connected by land. The sperm whale was already there, already diving, already generating those pulses in the dark. The clearest record of what this animal can actually do, not the mythology, not the metaphor, but the documented physical event, was written on the morning of November 20th, 1820, in the equatorial Pacific Ocean, approximately 2,000 nautical miles west of South America. The Essex was a Nantucket whale ship, three-masted, 87 feet long, built of white oak in Amesbury, Massachusetts, in 1799. She displaced 238 tons, carried a crew of 20 men, and was commanded by Captain George Pollard, Jr. Her first mate was a 22-year-old named Owen Chase. The crew had been in the Pacific for 14 months. On the morning of the 20th, they had spotted a pod and lowered the whaleboats. Chase harpooned a whale, which damaged his boat. He returned to the Essex to make repairs. That is when he saw it. A large male sperm whale was lying still on the surface, slightly ahead of the ship. Witnesses later placed its length at roughly 85 feet, approximately 26 meters. That would put it at the extreme upper end of historical size records and likely represents some overestimation by men in a state of acute stress. But the documented account is consistent. A very large adult bull, significantly longer than the ship itself. Chase watched it. The whale lay motionless for a moment. Then it moved off. Then it turned. When Chase next saw the whale, it was approximately 100 rods directly ahead of the Essex, that is, about 500 meters, coming directly at the ship. In his 1821 narrative, published by W.B. Gilley in New York, Chase recorded what followed in precise, unadorned language. The whale hit the Essex with full speed, striking it just forward of the forechains, delivering such an appalling and tremendous jar as nearly threw us all on our faces. The whale passed beneath the ship and surfaced on the other side. The Essex was already flooding. The whale lay off to one side. Then it turned again. "Here he is. He is making for us again." Chase's own words. He looked ahead and saw the whale about 100 rods ahead, half out of the water, coming with apparently twice his ordinary speed, and to me at that moment it appeared with tenfold fury and vengeance in his aspect. His head was about half out of water. The second strike hit the bow. The Essex sank in minutes. 20 men, 3 small open whaleboats, more than 1,000 miles from the nearest land. What followed was a 90-day survival ordeal, drifting across the Pacific, running out of food, rationing water, ultimately resorting to measures that Chase documented with the same flat precision he'd applied to the whale attack itself. 8 of the 20 men survived. Chase later wrote of the attack, "Every fact seemed to warrant me in concluding that it was anything but chance which directed his operations." His aspect was most horrible, and such as indicated resentment and fury. He described it as 2 several attacks upon the ship, at a short interval between them, both of which, according to their direction, were calculated to do us the most injury. Researchers have proposed plausible mechanistic explanations. The crew had harpooned other whales from the same pod that morning, A defensive or retaliatory response from the large bull is consistent with known sperm whale behavior. Carrier et al., writing in the Journal of Experimental Biology in 2002, argued that the spermaceti organ's mass and structural properties are consistent with use as a battering ram in male-on-male combat, and that the Essex attack may have been triggered by the ship's acoustic signature resembling a rival male. None of that changes what Chase recorded. A large male sperm whale circled, accelerated, and struck a ship twice, deliberately, with force sufficient to sink it. Herman Melville first heard the story of the Essex while at sea in the forecastle of the whale ship Acushnet in 1841. He was 21 years old. The disaster was already 20 years old, already traveling through American whaling crews the way disasters always do, in fragments, in the voices of men who knew someone who'd been on that ground. Later, still at sea, he met William Henry Chase, Owen Chase's own son, who lent him his father's published narrative. Melville's annotation of that moment survives in scholarly editions of his marginalia. The reading of this wondrous story upon the landless sea, and so close to the very latitude of the shipwreck, had a surprising effect upon me. He later acquired his own annotated copy of Chase's account. Owen Chase appears in the Extracts section of Moby Dick. The new Cambridge companion to Herman Melville cites the narrative as direct source material. A 1975 analysis published in JSTOR by Barber states it plainly. Melville acquired Owen Chase's narrative, his source for the sinking of the Pequod. Moby Dick was published in Britain on October 18, 1851, as The Whale, in 3 volumes, by Richard Bentley of London. The American first edition followed on November 14, 1851, from Harper & Brothers in New York. On August 20, 1851, more than 7 weeks before either edition reached a reader, a whale ship out of New Bedford named the Anne Alexander was rammed and sunk by a sperm whale in the Pacific Ocean near what was known as the offshore ground, west of the Galapagos Islands. The Anne Alexander whale had been harpooned first, which distinguishes the provocation structure from the Essex case. But the mechanical outcome was the same. A sperm whale rammed a wooden whaling vessel below the waterline, and the ship sank. The crew was rescued 2 days later by the ship Nantucket. Melville completed his novel about a whale destroying a ship. While he was finishing it, a real whale was destroying a real ship. He didn't learn about it until early November 1851, when his friend and New York publisher Evert Doykink sent him a newspaper clipping. Melville's letter back to Doykink is among the most documented literary responses to a news item in 19th century American writing. It's really and truly a surprising coincidence, to say the least. I make no doubt it's Moby Dick himself. Ye gods, what a commentator is this Anne Alexander whale. What he has to say is short and pithy and very much to the point. I wonder if my evil art has raised this monster. Moby Dick was sandwiched between 2 facts. The Essex gave Melville the template. The Anne Alexander confirmed it while the ink was still wet. One whale sank a ship in 1820. A man who had read about it spent years writing a novel. Then a different whale sank a different ship just before the book reached its first reader. To understand why the whale could do what it did to the Essex, and why it can do things no other living animal can, requires a working knowledge of what 45 tons of apex predator looks like from the inside. Archival tagging studies, including the telemetry work of Watkins et al. From 1993, tracking 158 sperm whale dives via radio tag, and the analysis published by Watwood et al. In 2006, document typical deep foraging dives averaging around 990 meters and lasting about 44 minutes, with range from 420 to 1,330 meters. Maximum confirmed depths from tagging and acoustic localization reach approximately 2,035 to 2,250 meters, over 7,000 feet. Figures approaching 3,000 meters appear in some sources, inferred from prey distribution rather than instrument-confirmed dives. The confirmed ceiling sits around 2,250 meters. That is already deeper than the height of most mountain ranges in Western Europe. At 2,000 meters, the physics of water pressure is straightforward and severe. For every 10 meters of depth, pressure increases by approximately 1 atmosphere. At 2,000 meters, the whale's body is under about 200 atmospheres, roughly 200 times what it experiences at the surface. Sperm whales survive this because oxygen is stored primarily in hemoglobin in the blood and myoglobin in the muscle, not in air-filled lungs. The ribcage collapses at depth. Older whale skeletons show avascular necrosis, the same bone damage produced by decompression sickness in human divers, which suggests the adaptations, while extraordinary, aren't cost-free. The breath hold. Operational dives typically last 40 to 50 minutes, followed by surface rest intervals of about 8 to 10 minutes. The Natural History Museum in London cites approximately 90 minutes as the documented upper operational limit for a hunting dive. Documented extreme cases push beyond that. A male killed off South Africa in 1969 had been underwater for 117 minutes. Some recorded extremes in the scientific literature reach 112 to 138 minutes. That is one breath held for more than 2 hours at 200 atmospheres of pressure in absolute darkness while hunting. The acoustic system is the most extraordinary single feature. Sperm whale clicks have been measured at apparent source levels of up to approximately 230 decibels, Rs 1 micropascal at 1 meter, the highest recorded biological sound by any measure. Merle et al., publishing in the Journal of the Acoustical Society of America in 2000 and 2003, documented on-axis apparent source levels in the range of 220 to 236 decibels. The decibel scale is logarithmic. The difference between 180 decibels and 230 decibels represents roughly 100,000 times the acoustic intensity. Sound in seawater moves at about 1,500 meters per second, approximately 4.5 times faster than through air. At these intensities, the click isn't passive detection. It's an acoustic event powerful enough that researchers have proposed, though not experimentally confirmed, that at close range the pulse could stun or disorient prey before the whale closes the distance. What is confirmed? The returning echo gives the whale a real-time, three-dimensional map of its environment in total darkness. Position, movement, size, all resolved from the returning signal of a click fired into water half a kilometer below where light has any business being. One additional detail about the clicks: the interpulse interval, the precise timing between the initial pulse and its first reflection inside the head, is directly correlated with the size of the spermaceti organ, which is directly correlated with the whale's total body length. A sperm whale's click, in other words, encodes information about the size of the animal producing it. In male-on-male encounters, rivals assess each other acoustically before committing to a physical challenge. A large ship's hull striking the water will generate its own acoustic return. Whether that specific dynamic contributed to the Essex attack, nobody can say with certainty. What the physics allows is the possibility. Below 1,000 meters, the whale enters what it came for. The bathypelagic zone, the midnight zone, extends from roughly 1,000 to 4,000 meters. No sunlight, immense pressure, temperatures near freezing. The clicks shift pattern as the whale descends deeper, slowing, focusing, transitioning from the regular echolocation of transit into what tagging researchers call creaks, a rapid buzzing sequence that correlates in the data with active prey pursuit. The whale is close to something. Its primary prey in this zone is squid. Clark's 1980 monograph, built on the identification and quantification of tens of thousands of squid beaks recovered from whale stomachs at whaling stations across the southern hemisphere, remains the foundational text on sperm whale diet. A 2021 taxonomy review in Deep Sea Research, citing Clark's subsequent 1986 work, noted that over 18,000 beaks had been found in a single whale's stomach. The sperm whale is estimated to consume roughly 3% of its body weight in prey per day, approximately 1 ton of squid and other organisms every day, for a lifespan of 70 or more years. The population, before commercial whaling reduced it, consumed an estimated 110 million tons of cephalopods annually across the global ocean. Most of that is smaller squid. But among the recovered stomach contents are items from Architeuthis dux, the giant squid. Kawakami's review in the IWC Scientific Reports documented individual squid items weighing up to 200 kilograms. Giant squid reach approximately 12 meters in total length, including tentacles. Their arms carry rotating hooks and serrated suction cups designed to hold and tear. Recovered sperm whale skin in individuals with long hunting histories is typically marked with circular sucker ring scars, evidence that the prey fights back and fights hard. In 1965, according to a Soviet whaling vessel account that has persisted in the popular and scientific literature, a single-source report without corroborating primary documentation, the crew reportedly found a sperm whale and a giant squid at the surface together, both dead. Neither had let go of the other. That specific report can't be independently verified. What can be verified is the principle it illustrates. The hunt in the midnight zone isn't a clean extraction. The squid's entire defensive arsenal, the ink cloud, the camouflage, the bioluminescent countermeasures, the hooks on the arms, has been under selection pressure for approximately 20 million years, shaped specifically by the threat of this specific predator. Clark's dietary analysis estimated that Architeuthis-type squid represent perhaps 1% or less of total sperm whale prey by number. The hooks, the ink, all of it. And the whale is still winning, by an overwhelming margin, on the evidence in its own stomach. Before the modern sperm whale, there was something else wearing the same basic body plan, and using it very differently. In 2008, workers excavating at Cerro Colorado in the Pisco Formation of coastal Peru, approximately 35 kilometers southwest of the town of Ica, found a skull 3 meters long with a mandible still attached and a set of teeth that changed the understanding of what the physeteroid lineage was capable of. Lambert et al. Published the formal description in Nature in 2010. The specimen was catalogued as MUSM 1676. The animal was named Leviathan melvilli, Leviathan being the original Hebrew spelling of Leviathan, the biblical sea monster. Melvilli for the American author who had turned that ancient dread into literature 160 years earlier. The fossil stratum was originally dated at approximately 12 to 13 million years ago. Subsequent revision placed it closer to 9.9 to 8.9 million years ago in the late Miocene. The range spans, at its most conservative, a period somewhere between 10 and 13 million years before the present. This animal was hunting these same Pacific waters when our hominid ancestors were approximately the size of chimpanzees. Leviathan was approximately 13.5 to 17.5 meters long, directly overlapping the size range of a large modern bull sperm whale. The teeth are the critical distinction. The modern sperm whale has functional teeth only in its lower jaw. Leviathan had large interlocking teeth on both upper and lower jaws, each up to 36 centimeters in length and roughly 10 to 12 centimeters in diameter, the largest functional teeth of any known vertebrate animal. The Guardian's 2010 coverage of the Lambert et al. Paper described them as built to hold prey, inflict deep wounds, and tear chunks off it. These weren't squid teeth. They were built for large marine vertebrates, for other whales. Leviathan shared the late Miocene Pacific with Megalodon, Otodus megalodon, the megatooth shark. which reached 15 to 20 meters in length, with a bite force estimated at up to 18 metric tons. The fossiliferous Pisco Formation deposits contain evidence of both animals operating in the same coastal and pelagic zones. What the Miocene ocean looked like from the perspective of any large marine vertebrate in those waters isn't a comfortable picture. Two of the most powerful predators in the history of animal life, operating simultaneously in the same environment. Leviathan isn't a direct ancestor of the modern sperm whale. It belongs to an extinct macroraptorial clade within the physeteroid lineage, a cousin, not a grandfather. The modern sperm whale descended from the branch of physeteroids that specialized in acoustic hunting of deep-water cephalopods, rather than the raptorial ambush hunting that Leviathan employed. Leviathan's line eventually went extinct. The line that became Physeter macrocephalus didn't, but the architecture is continuous. The immense head, the acoustic potential locked inside it, the sheer body mass, all of it traceable through millions of years of the same family. The question of where the sperm whale sits in the ocean's predator hierarchy becomes most visible when another genuinely capable predator enters the same frame. Orcas, or Sinus orca, are legitimately formidable. They have been documented hunting great white sharks, including well-studied cases off South Africa and California, where individual orcas located and extracted great white livers with apparent precision, clearing entire coastal zones of sharks in the process. Transient orcas, the mammal-eating ecotype, regularly take grey whale calves, humpback calves, sea lions, seals. They operate in coordinated groups, communicate across encounters, and learn effective strategies culturally. In most of the world's oceans, there is nothing that comfortably outranks them in practical predatory capability. A bull sperm whale isn't most of the world's oceans. He is a separate category of problem. The physical anatomy of the mismatch. An adult male sperm whale averages 16 meters and around 45 tons. An adult male orca averages 6 to 8 meters and roughly 4.5 to 6 tons. The weight ratio is approximately 8 to 10 to 1 in favor of the sperm whale. Orca teeth measure roughly 7 to 8 centimeters in typical specimens, with peer-reviewed literature placing the upper range at around 10 centimeters, approximately 4 inches. Sperm whale blubber and skin thickness in the regions covering the back and head has been documented at up to 35 centimeters, approximately 14 inches, in anatomical studies. An orca putting its teeth into the side of a large bull sperm whale is pressing approximately 4 inches of tooth against 14 inches of dense, fibrous, resistant tissue. The most rigorous scientific account of how these encounters actually unfold is Pittman, Balance, Mesnick and Chivers, published in Marine Mammal Science, Volume 17, Number 3, in 2001. They document 3 direct observed encounters between killer whales and sperm whales. The centerpiece observation took place in October 1997, approximately 130 kilometers off the central California coast. The attacking group numbered roughly 35 killer whales. The sperm whale group numbered 9. The orca attack strategy employed adult females in waves of 4 to 5 animals, using wound and withdraw passes targeting the skin and blubber. Adult male orcas held back until late in the engagement. The attack lasted hours. The outcome? At least 1 sperm whale killed, an adult female. The remaining animals were described as seriously, possibly mortally wounded. The broader documented record is consistent. The broader documented record confirms the same pattern. Documented kills and serious injuries involve adult female sperm whales, subadults, and calves. No peer-reviewed study has documented a confirmed kill of a clearly healthy adult bull sperm whale by orcas. When the sperm whale group detects orcas, the animals move into the formation first described scientifically by Nishiwaki in 1962, who named it for its resemblance to a marguerite flower. The marguerite formation places the calves inside the group, with adults arranged heads inward and tails extended outward, like the petals of a flower viewed from above. Ponampalam et al., writing in Aquatic Mammals in 2016, describe it as Whales at the surface, heads inward and tails outward, akin to the spokes of a wheel. The formation can extend vertically as well, adults with heads at the surface and flukes sweeping below, enclosing the calves in a three-dimensional shell. Each adult in that formation weighs between 15 and 45 tons. The flukes weigh multiple tons on their own and can be swung with force sufficient to cause serious structural damage to anything they contact. Orcas attacking a sealed marguerite formation face an engineering problem rather than a tactical one. The defensive structure works because the animals most worth targeting, the calves, are surrounded by the animals most dangerous to approach. The 1997 California attack assembled approximately 35 killer whales against 9 sperm whales. Even at those numbers, a superpod of orcas against a small group, the result was the death of one adult female over the course of a multi-hour engagement. An account from 2024 in the scientific literature noted that historically, sperm whales were thought, given their size and toothed jaws, to be essentially invulnerable to orca predation. The last 2 decades of documented encounters have refined that view. Calves and adult females are genuinely vulnerable, particularly in groups too small to maintain the formation effectively. Adult bulls are a different situation. A review entry in the Encyclopedia of Marine Mammals states the point without embellishment. Sperm whales are likely to be difficult for killer whales to kill. The ecological arithmetic resolves fairly clearly. A group of orcas deciding to pressure a sperm whale group is committing substantial time and energy to an encounter where serious injury to individual orcas, from flukes, from the marguerite formation's tails outward posture, from contact with animals that each outweigh the attacker by 8 to 10 to 1, is a genuine possibility. The same orcas can take great white sharks with apparent ease, or exhaust a humpback calf over a few hours. The ocean provides alternatives. Right now, somewhere in the deep Pacific, a sperm whale is doing what sperm whales were doing before our species learned to use fire. The controlled use of fire in the Homo lineage traces back approximately 1 million years, with widespread evidence extending to around 400,000 years ago. The sperm whale's fossil record extends to at least 20 to 25 million years, a gap of somewhere between 19 and 24 million years, during which the whale was already occupying the deepest hunting niche on the planet, already generating those acoustic pulses in absolute darkness, already surfacing from depths that would kill anything not specifically built for them. Before commercial sperm whaling began in earnest, from Nantucket around 1712, global population models suggest the sperm whale population exceeded 1 million individuals. Commercial whaling, scaling industrially through the 19th and 20th centuries until the International Whaling Commission moratorium took effect in 1986, reduced that population to a fraction of its original size. The IUCN currently lists the global sperm whale population as vulnerable, with the Mediterranean subpopulation listed separately as endangered. Current global abundance estimates carry substantial uncertainty. Published ranges span roughly 200,000 to several 100,000 individuals, with the uncertainty itself a reflection of how genuinely difficult it is to census a species that spends the majority of its life below 1,000 meters. The species isn't what it was in terms of numbers. In terms of biology, it remains exactly what it always was. The largest toothed predator alive on Earth is still diving, still generating those clicks, still returning to the surface from depths that no other large animal reaches, still deploying the marguerite formation when orcas approach, still accumulating squid beaks in numbers that no other predator matches. The fiction that grew up around it, Moby Dick, the white whale, the monster, was the human attempt to make sense of an animal that doesn't map neatly onto human categories of threat and danger. The animal itself was never the monster of fiction. It was the physical reality that made the fiction feel true. Owen Chase documented that reality on November 20th, 1820. A crew off the Galapagos documented it again on August 20th, 1851. Pittman and his colleagues documented it off the California coast in October 1997. The same animal, the same behavior, the same physics, across 177 years of observation. Somewhere in the Pacific Ocean right now, a sperm whale is diving beyond 2,000 meters on a single breath, doing what sperm whales were doing before our species learned to use fire. For nearly 20 million years, it has been the primary protagonist of the deep sea. And for the last 20 million years, it has been the only thing in the dark that doesn't have to hide. The orcas know it, the squids know it, and now, so do you.